Hey, we're back. We're back with more Live from the Heartland on the 6th of December in the year 2008. I am Michael James. I am the host for this morning's edition of Live from the Heartland, and we are brought to you every Saturday morning on WLUW 88.7, Loyola University's community radio station. You can get previous issues of Live from the Heartland, increasingly so, if you go to YouTube under the name Heartland Media. And there are a number of interviews, and there are a number of radio shows. You can also go to the heartlandcafe.com, and if you do heartlandcafe.com/media, you will go to the Heartland internet video site, and there are all kind of little movies that will treat you to some good times, including Obama at the Heartland, John Sinclair, the old White Panther Party guy at the Heartland, and a number of radio shows, interviews with Don Rose, etc. So I encourage you to do that, heartlandcafe.com/media and Heartland Media on YouTube. So you'll be able to start seeing us, what we look like, and what we, various movements we make during these radio shows and things like that. I'm really honored today to have a young fellow out of San Francisco. He's an activist. He's an organizer. I first met him. His name is James Tracy, and I met him when he got a hold of me because he was doing a book on organizing poor and working white people around the country back in the 60s into the 70s. And good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Stay close to that microphone.
I will.
All right. I can push it over to you, too.
There we go.
Well, let's just start off talking about this book that's coming out. I know it's scheduled for publication. You finished it up. You got the pictures. You filled in the details, and it's coming out soon. Tell us all about it.
Well, unfortunately, it won't be out until January of 2010, but your listeners can check out a sneak preview in Area Chicago Magazine that just dropped today about Join Community Union. I found out about this type of work. My mentor, the person who taught me how to do housing organizing, was a man by the name of Malik Rahim, who was a former Black Panther Party member out of New Orleans. And he told me a story of as he was struggling in the 60s with questions of who's a potential ally and who wasn't, about meeting the Young Patriots organization, a group of folks mostly out of uptown Chicago who wore the Confederate flag on their uniforms but worked hand in hand with the Black Panther Party and Fred Hampton and Bob Lee. And he said if these guys could get their act together to try to kick racism, there was hope for the rest of y'all. So I was always very interested in the Young Patriots and really only intended to write maybe a retrospective article about them. But as I started digging, I found out about the great work that you did with Jobs or Income Now Community Union, Rising Up Angry, and other organizations like White Lightning and October 4th organization. And it turned into a book which I co-authored with the fabulous Amy Soni.
What's the name of the book going to be?
It's right now. It's gonna called "Keep on the Firing Line: Working Class Whites, the New Left, and the Original Rainbow Coalition." Which, of course, by the time it comes out, it may be edited down a bit.
And who's publishing the book?
Melville House. They're a great publisher right out of New York, right out of Brooklyn. They've published great books by Randall Keehan, who was the James Baldwin's biographer, and a ton of other great stuff.
I was always leery when someone was going to write a story about Rising Up Angry or Join, and so I was probably a little cautious when I first got the word from you. But over the course of your persistent questioning and looking for pictures and talking to other people and coming to town, and it got pretty exciting. There's a lot of us who were involved. We're old codgers, so to speak, now. Do you call a woman a codger too? I don't know, but there are a bunch of old people who were around in those days, and from my recollection, it was those were exciting times. We called ourselves the movement, and we were on many fronts, and we were challenging the Democratic Party. Even Lyndon Johnson, when he was coming out with the Civil Rights Bill, we thought, who was he to say we shall overcome? He was not one of us guys. We were pretty out there, and we were pretty serious, and we had buried ourselves in poor and working white neighborhoods, first in Uptown and then beyond. And people from that that period, both people who came out of the community as well as the organizers who back in Join were referred to as the students. They have gone on and done a lot of other good work, both in labor movement and in working in the school system, or some of us have become little kind of progressive entrepreneurs. But you did a wonderful service by kind of igniting the fire under everybody to start talking to each other and sharing information. What was the most exciting thing that you encountered in this whole move to uncover the organizing efforts of people here in Chicago and beyond?
Well, I think that the most exciting part was just learning about a very nuts and bolts, practical, roll-up-your-sleeve project that really challenged white supremacy both within the so-called students and the so-called workers. And I'll call your attention to the fact that a lot of people that we interviewed bridged both those worlds. People like Christine George, who grew up here in Chicago, working-class Greek woman, and went off to college and became a student, then came back and organized her community. So seeing that through really persistent, hard, backbreaking work, there, these pillars of white supremacy and class hatred could actually be undermined. Within the 60s and 70s, that there was another story besides. I mean, obviously, it's important to study the Weather Underground, but there's about 8 books on those guys, and the people that did some of the most difficult day-to-day work, organizing the community and having faith that everyday human beings could learn, grow, change, and resist was a really moving story.
Yeah, I think back in those days, there were a lot of people who were certainly inspired by the civil rights movement, but also didn't have any confidence that poor and working white people would be on the side of justice. Poor and working white people were often written off as rednecks or S-kickers, hillbillies, racists, and it probably was really unfair. I mean, certainly it was unfair. And we found, I'm thinking you found this in the people you talked to, that if by being in people's communities, by being in contact with them on a daily basis, by sharing experiences and challenging each other, there was a real give and take, but a learning process that moved people toward a clearer understanding about basically what we would have to say class consciousness. There's the notion of false consciousness where white people may say, well, I don't want to deal with the black people, but in reality they have similar problems.